Amazing. So, welcome everybody to your session on campaign planning, where we'll be helping you and giving you information on how you could build a campaign that really resonates with your audiences and drives action. And in terms of what we're going to be covering today, so first we're going to be looking at why campaigns matter, and then we're going to be looking at case studies as well as 6 steps to help plan a campaign. And then we're going to be giving you an introduction to our campaign planner tool that you can find on our Lightful platform, as well as a group ideation activity. So today is a workshop where we'll be having a mixture of learning and doing. So you will be placed in breakout rooms. So it'd be best to have your camera on for that. But if that's not possible, and not within your bandwidth, that's also not an issue, as long as your mics are on and you are able to talk. And I can see all the lovely introductions coming in. Welcome, Suhair, all the way from Pakistan and Afghanistan. We've got Legacy from the Ethiopian Center for Disability and Development, although I remember, Suhair, you aren't based there, you're based in America. So welcome from the US. And then we've got Remy joining in from Kampala, Uganda. Amazing. And just to introduce myself, I am Simran and I'm a digital communications coach here at Lightful. But before I did join Lightful, I worked in social media and outreach within the charity sector for 5 years, where I worked on campaigns with a range of goals from fundraising to awareness raising, and advocacy. And I have to say, it was during the time of COVID, so it was very a whole nother game. But all my campaigns looked very different. But once we did figure out what worked really well for our organization, the foundations of the campaign stay the same. And my aim is to help you establish that for your organizations also. And I'm not alone on this call. I'm also joined by Svetlana, who will be introducing herself now also.
Thank you, Simran. And hi, everyone. It is lovely to see your introductions in the chat. And I'm glad to join you today as well. So my name is Svetlana. I'm also a digital communications coach on the Bridge program at Lightful. And I joined the team almost 2 years ago. And before that, I have got some experience planning and executing some campaigns as well. So my team took part in the national Giving Tuesday campaign in Ukraine, where I'm based. And my job was to coordinate the program participants and to create some content for it and make sure that we reach our goals. So this is something that we will discuss today as well, on how to set up goals for your campaign and how to make sure that you are achieving them. So I'm really looking forward to the session today and learning more about your campaigns as well. So let me outline our learning outcomes for this session. So firstly, we would like to recognize the benefits of aligning campaigns with some awareness days and fundraising moments. Then we would encourage you to apply a 6-step framework to plan, launch, run, and review a digital campaign using our campaign planner tool that we will show you. And also, we invite you to create a draft campaign idea using the campaign planner tool to map goals, audiences, channels, and timeline of your campaigns. And before we dive deeper into that, let me launch a quick poll just to ask you a couple questions to get some temperature check. So firstly, we would like to ask you, how have you run a digital campaign before? So whether you have some experience in planning and running a digital campaign. And whether you are running a digital campaign this year. So maybe you already have some plans for the upcoming couple of months. Maybe you're running a campaign for Giving Tuesday or 16 Days of Activism or any other topics. So let us know if you have any plans on that. And I can see some first votes coming through, and it looks like the majority of you have run a digital campaign before, which is amazing. So you are already familiar with what the campaigns are and how to plan them probably. So I hope this session will be useful for you to maybe get some tips on how to improve your campaign results as well. And also, if you can share in the chat how your campaigns went, that would be amazing to hear as well. So if you have any tips for others that you would like to share, feel free to share them in the chat at any point of this session. And I can see that most of you also are planning a digital campaign this year as well. So once again, I hope the session will be useful in framing them. And also, if you would like to discuss your campaigns in more detail, feel free to book a one-to-one with our team, and we can go through your campaign plans together and maybe also offer some advice on how to make it even more effective. So feel free to share the chat in the chat how your previous campaigns went. And what the topic of this year's campaign is as well. But now let's just talk again about what the campaign is. So I see that most of you already have a good understanding of what a campaign is. So I hope that we will just skim this through quickly. So as you know, campaign is not just a one-off post or activity. It should be a series of connected content built around a specific topic with the goal of engaging your audience, telling your story, and inspiring action. So as you probably know, campaigns bring focus and momentum, and they let you amplify your work and invite others to be part of something bigger. And a campaign can be across multiple platforms, and it necessarily is a series of content around one theme, aiming at bringing your audience together to highlight your work, impact, and encourage to take a specific action. So often a great campaign will combine marketing methods to increase reach and be more effective. And lots of you have shared how you need to move towards online fundraising and reaching more audiences or generating more income from individual donors. So fundraising campaigns are a great way of doing this. And you could also run a campaign based on raising awareness or advocating for a particular cause, or even growing your newsletter signups or recruiting volunteers for your organization. And an action we would love for you to take while you're on the Bridge program is planning and launching your digital campaign. So that can be a fundraising campaign or awareness raising or even volunteer recruitment one. And the campaign could be one day long or it could run for longer. So whatever your goal is, we are here to support you with the campaign planning and delivery. And on the next slide, you can see the simple way we want you to approach campaigns. So they start with a theme and you develop into content and engage your audience and ultimately drive action. So that action might be to donate for the very first time or to sign up as a regular donor. So I know we have discussed with some of you on how to convert your first-time donors into regular givers, or to maybe recruit some volunteers, for example. Or to share an advocacy message or something else. So the point is that you start with your team and then design content that is aimed at this specific goal and also is engaging a specific audience to take a particular action. And now we would love you to have some time to reflect. So we will give you 1 minute to think about the time when you were moved to act quickly. So maybe you have donated or signed up for something or shared a story. So think of what made you respond this way. So what triggered your action? Was it a story or urgency or a particular call to action or maybe some emotional visuals? And also think of how fast did you decide and what emotion did it tap into? So how did you feel when you were performing this action? So we will give you 1 minute to think about that, and then we would invite you to share in the chat or unmute yourselves. So we will give you 1 minute to think about this, and we would be happy to hear from you afterwards. Maybe there was a particular campaign that comes to mind, or a charity that you support for a long time, or maybe a personal story you have heard that really moved you and it made you make a donation or follow someone's social media page or subscribe for an email newsletter, or maybe sign up as a volunteer if you have volunteered for any organization. So maybe you have had some triggers that made you feel that way and made you take an action. So we would be happy to hear about your experiences. So would anyone like to share? Maybe you have any ideas? Has anything come to mind? Any specific campaigns or stories that you saw that made you moved and made you take an action? Feel free to unmute yourselves or share in the chat if you like. Yeah, Esther, please go on. Hello.
Thank you. So for me, it was a while back. There were very high cases of femicide in Kenya, and different organizations were putting up petitions to make femicide like a national emergency. So one of the emails that I received was to, like, for example, urge me to be able to sign the petition. And the reason why I did it and I did it really quickly is because I related to the issue. I could see, I could understand what they were talking about because I have seen in the news what has been happening, and I could relate with how that is something that is really important for women in Kenya. So it was mostly because I could really relate to what it was talking about, and it did not sound like something that was really far away from me. They were able to bring the issue very close home to different people. So that was really good.
Thank you very much for sharing, Esther. Yeah, totally agree. This is such an important issue. And also, thank you very much for sharing your experience. And yeah, I definitely agree that having a personal connection to the issue is really important. So I think maybe this is the lesson that you can maybe think of how to implement in your personal campaign. So how to make people feel connected to your campaigns as well. But yeah, I think definitely through storytelling and through also highlighting the urgency of the issue is like those are really important triggers. So thank you very much for sharing. And Javi, I can see you have raised your hand as well. So would you like to go first? Go next, sorry.
Yes, yeah, for me, I remember a few years ago, there was a group that was going to prison to visit boys, and they were asking for underwear. And because I'd been supported before with underwear, it really resonated with me, and I knew the importance of having new underwear. And so this made me move not only to donate underwear, but also to go and see the boys. And yeah, and as a result, I ended up now just working with the boys longer.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. Yes, I definitely agree that once again, we have mentioned the personal connection and personal experiences here. And yeah, I think also for sharing those experiences, storytelling is definitely really important. And of course, it is important also to share stories in an ethical way. And we will also talk about that further in our program. But yeah, I think this is also a very important thing to think about in terms of your campaigns as well. And I can see also Remy has shared that the way I acted so fast is when I visited an orphanage and looking at the little babies, I quickly made a donation to get them Pampers and milk. Well, once again, we can see this personal experience here and seeing also people whom you are supporting. So I think this connection with not just like the organization, but also with people who really receive your services, who really receive your support is really, really important. Thank you very, very much for sharing, everyone. And we also would love to keep going. So if anyone else would like to share your experience, that would be amazing. But yeah, I think those stories are really, really personal and really helpful in understanding on how we make people feel this way, how we make people feel connected to what we do, because there is definitely a really great mission behind any of your work. So we all work in the nonprofit sector, and you all have really amazing mission statements, as we can remember from your first masterclass. So yeah, definitely it is important to communicate your mission and engage people with it during your campaigns as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. And now let's come back to campaign planning. So in terms of planning your campaigns, we want to give your target audience a sense of why taking action now matters. So many of you may be familiar with awareness days or weeks, and these are key moments that can be a great hook for a campaign. And it's also an opportunity to be part of something bigger and mobilize supporters in a particular time frame around a specific theme. So some of you might run 24-hour fundraising campaigns for key fundraising moments like Giving Tuesday, or you might also consider celebrating your organization's anniversary, which is a great opportunity to run a campaign for, because you can focus on who you are as an organization and the impact you have achieved over the years. And there are hundreds of awareness days throughout the year, so it's worth doing some research to find ones that resonate most with your mission. And the Lightful platform is a great place to start, and you can easily see what's coming up. And if you are short on time, you can also use our social templates, map out, so those are really ready-made journeys you can use to guide your audience towards taking action. So you can find them on the left. On the Lightful platform, you can see this menu, and you can find social templates. So social templates are basically a set of social media post samples that you can use around a specific topic. And you can see we have campaigns for Giving Tuesday and 16 Days of Activism, which is going on right now. So you can use those specific campaigns to share posts on your socials, but we can also have campaigns for World Refugee Days and other campaigns as well. So it is pretty simple. You can just use the template and review some content that we have shared, and also, of course, adapt it to your particular audience and add specific call to action. But those should be really helpful to get you to help you get started and plan some content around a campaign. And moving on to awareness days, those are key fundraising moments, and they are incredibly powerful because they act as natural hooks for your campaigns, and they create instant urgency and visibility. So you don't have to build all the momentum yourself because the moment is already capturing public attention. So this helps you cut through the noise, and especially in crowded digital spaces we have now. So they are also a great way to reach people who might not normally engage with you, because new donors or supporters are far more open and active during these moments because they have already primed to look for causes that align with the specific theme on the day. And another benefit is that awareness days position your organization as part of a bigger, meaningful conversation. So whether that's Giving Tuesday or World Mental Health Day or International Women's Day or Earth Day, for example, these moments signal to supporters that you are connected to issues they care about, and that you're showing up that the world is paying attention. So they're also brilliant space to experiment creatively. So because the moment is really short and focused in time, you can test new storytelling ideas, visuals, formats without committing to a long resource-heavy campaign. And it also gives you permission to try something bold, knowing the window is limited. And finally, these moments amplify your voice. So when you tap into existing hashtags, media cycles, and shared conversations, your message travels further with less effort. So you're riding a wave that is already moving, and that collective momentum gives your content much better chance of being seen, shared, and acted on. And now I'm going to hand it over to Simran to explore some examples of such campaigns.
Thank you, Svetlana, and thank you everyone so much for sharing your own experiences of when you were moved to act quickly from a campaign. So today I kind of want to focus on one organization for our case study that leverages campaign moments really well, just so you can get a gist of the variety of campaigns that you can put out as one organization. So today I want to focus on MAP, which is Medical Aid for Palestinians, which is an organization that works in collaboration with Palestinian communities and trusted local partners to answer a range of health and social needs. So that's from providing medical aid in emergencies to supporting the development of better health services for the long term. And they're a really good example of an organization that really understands its audience and knows how to leverage key campaign moments. So what you'll see in the upcoming posts is how they use different moments throughout the year, such as humanitarian awareness days, Ramadan, Christmas, and also real-time updates to connect with supporters in ways that feel relevant, timely, and meaningful. And it all comes from really understanding their audiences, which is what we kind of want, we're getting at the gist that with you today. So first we have a post they put out for World Humanitarian Day. So they basically use World Humanitarian Day as a powerful moment to basically highlight what's happening on the ground. And in a moment, I'll be scrolling through this post, and you'll notice how they pair the Global Awareness Day with very real facts and statistics. So showing the scale of need, number of people affected, and the gaps in humanitarian access. So if I get the post up here now, so this is what they did for World Humanitarian Day. And if I go through the post, you can see that they really, they just rely a lot on statistics and facts. And this approach raises awareness while grounding everything in evidence. And it helps supporters understand both the urgency and the impact. And this is a really great example of using a campaign moment, not just to ask for help, but also to educate, build empathy, and actually show exactly why their work matters right now. So it answers a question that many potential donors will be looking at, will be approaching your post with, and that is, why should I donate to you now? Why is today the day? And they pretty much answer that well. I think Pilar's going to be sharing a link to this in the chat if you would like to look at this post further or study it further. And then we have another great example of posts that they put out. So these two posts that I'll be showing you in a minute are great examples of how MAP aligns its campaigns with moments that really matter to their target audience. So in one of the conference talks that I attended, they explained that a significant portion of their donors are Muslim. So they intentionally use Ramadan and the idea of zakat as a key connection point. So zakat is an obligatory form of giving in Islam, and it creates a natural moment for generosity and impact. And so MAP taps into that really respectfully and effectively. And in the video that I'm going to show you, you can see how they pair this moment with raw on the ground footage showing exactly what donations provide in real time. So let me go onto the Facebook post now. Just going to make my screen bigger so you can see the full thing. So as you can see, this is the kind of comms they framed their story around, and then hopefully my sound works. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Ramadan Kareem, this is Mahmoud Shalabi speaking from Medical Aid for Palestinians. I'm standing today in the only neonatal intensive care unit that has been supported by MAB in the area of the north of the valley. As you can see behind me, there are critical cases of children that are being treated inside this facility. None of this would have been possible without your very generous support. Also, the drugs in my hand today, this is called surfactant and this is called caffeine citrate. We are the only organization that was able to bring those items and those critical drugs, life-saving ones.
So the video stops there, but I think that gives a really good idea of how they've kind of leveraged this opportunity from looking deeply at their audience. And also, if producing a video isn't within your organization's capacity, there is also an Instagram post that they posted in regards to Eid. So it says, "This Eid comes with agony and despair for all of us." Is a quote, and it's a form of storytelling of someone's experience on the ground. And I feel like from a social, I mean, this Instagram post shows a very accessible alternative, such as using a simple quote about how different Eid can feel for different families in crisis. Let me go back to my slides and just make that nicer for you. And from a social media perspective, I believe both of these posts work because they're rooted really well in audience insight. So they speak directly to cultural and emotional relevance, and they use authentic storytelling to make the need tangible. As you can see from that video, they show the very tangible effects and impact that your donations can have. And what is happening on the ground. And it's a all of it was a very thoughtful campaign planning. It's a matter of meeting people where they already are, using moments that they care about, and also pairing them with clear human-centered messaging. And then I have one more example. So in this post, MAP recognizes that also many of their supporters are from the West, where Christmas is also a very significant moment. So they've chosen to share a message of hope and positive impact. So as I go through this post now, so what they do is they're featuring first-hand reflections from their on-the-ground teams about what donations are actually achieving. And by doing so, they tap into the seasonal mindset of giving and generosity, and while keeping the focus on real change. So they know it's a positive and happy moment, and so they tap into that as opposed to maybe what they may be used to, which is something a bit more on the ground a reflection of what is actually being experienced. So the content works because it blends a culturally familiar moment, which is Christmas, with authentic voices and concrete impact, making the ask feel meaningful and grounded. And it's a smart example of aligning campaign timing, audience insight, and storytelling. So I hope you all found these examples helpful. If you would like to explore these further or kind of think about your audience and what we can kind of leverage with your insights, feel free to book in a coaching call and we can help you do that further. So now we're going to go back to thinking about your own campaigns that you may run. And so I have some questions for you. I'm going to launch another poll. Oh, it's up. Thank you, Svetlana. So these questions are, how confident do you feel about planning a digital campaign? And also, if you are planning a campaign, what is your primary goal? So is it a fundraising, awareness and advocacy, volunteer recruitment, or newsletter signups, or even connecting with partners? Or if there is something else, please do share that in the chat. So I can see that a lot of you are in the upper end range of confidence in planning a digital campaign. I'm getting some answers on the lower spectrum, which is they're all great answers because I feel like this session we're starting right from the bottom and gonna rise up from there. And then in terms of campaign planning goals, I can see that fundraising is one of the biggest ones, followed by awareness. So thank you everyone for sharing. I'm going to keep that poll open to give everyone a chance to complete it. And then there is some time for another exercise. It is a workshop after all. So we want you to think back to the audience work that we did last month when we asked you to think about your audience's motivations, cultural moments, values, needs, and also the times of the years when they are most engaged. And we want you to ask yourself, is there a moment, event, or theme that my audience is already paying attention to? So this could be an emotional moment, a cultural moment, a seasonal, or maybe it's mission specific. So please do take some time and share in the chat what kind of opportunities you can identify from thinking about your audience. And maybe we can think back to what Medical Aid for Palestinians did for inspiration. So as you think of this, I'm going to give you some more little hints and ideas. So you could potentially link your potential campaigns to a global awareness day. I saw that Legacy mentioned International Day of Persons with Disabilities, which I know is very relevant to their organization. You could also link it to a cultural or faith-based moment that is important to your supporters, as we saw MAP do that with Ramadan and also with Christmas for those that live in the West. And then we'll also have a local community event, a significant date for your organization. Maybe your organization has an anniversary coming up. Maybe you're launching a new project, a new program, or there's a great achievement purely from running your services. Or maybe there's even a seasonal giving moment that aligns with your organization's audience's habits. So try to think like Matt. You can see that they didn't just choose random campaign moments. They chose moments that were deeply meaningful to their audience. So definitely use these 2 minutes to identify your moment, one that feels natural, relevant, and aligned with supporters that you care about. So, and now I'm going to reflect my question back to you. Do you have any ideas or do you have any ideas about an opportunity that's coming up that you may feel that is relevant to your audience in terms of a campaign moment? If you do so, please do share in the chat or come off mute.
Hi, this is Jane. I'm with Help Age USA.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. So here in the US, the end of the calendar year is always a really important fundraising moment because people can earn credit on their taxes for the year if they give a certain amount, total amount for the year. So there's a lot of fundraising that's done. sort of in the last 2 months of the year. And then, of course, we also have Giving Tuesday, sort of in the middle of that. So that's the biggest fundraising period for a lot of organizations here in the US and for us, my organization.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's also that's something I didn't mention is maybe there's something more personal in terms of like your financial that may affect the financial decisions your audience may make. So definitely if they feel like I think in the UK we call it gift aid. I don't know if that's what you call it in the US. If there's like they feel like their donations will be doubled or their donations will be going further, then that's definitely a great moment to leverage and co-opt. So thank you for sharing, Jane. And that's also something we're going to explore a little bit further in just a second. And then I can see that Francis has shared that they'll be looking at International Day to Eliminate Violence, another really important awareness day, and definitely something that I feel like could also, I think maybe storytelling is a great way to kind of communicate what your services do there. So thank you for sharing. And then we've got Howie sharing Christmas. Definitely, I think Christmas, I said it's when I spoke about it before, I was saying it to relate to Western audiences, but I know it's worldwide. So yeah, definitely something that you should be focusing. I mean, if it is relevant to your audience, definitely something that you should focus on. I think end of year is a big one for a lot of people. So definitely, I feel like it's going to, I mean, busy days are ahead. Okay, so I mean, Jane mentioned Giving Tuesday, so I'm going to continue on with that theme because speaking of campaign moments, I do just want to take a moment to spotlight a campaign opportunity that may be especially valuable for some of you, which is Giving Tuesday, and this takes place on December the 2nd this year. Now, this may only be relevant if your target audience includes donors or funders that are based in the UK or the US. So, if you are trying to appeal to diaspora or international organizations, then this is definitely something that you should consider. And that I'm going to give you the reasons why, and that's because Giving Tuesday has become one of the biggest generosity moments of the year with huge momentum and donor participation. So supporters in the UK and US actually expect to see appeals on this day, and organizations that take part often see noticeable spikes in engagement and donations. And there actually was an article published last week with some really striking findings. And they found that in 2024, Giving Tuesday generated the highest donation value of the entire festive season, and it accounted for over 5% of all December giving in the UK. So that's just the UK, not the US, which is the biggest share of any single day. And donations made on Giving Tuesday have been increasing year on year, showing that it's becoming an even stronger fundraising moment. So it's also shifting peak giving earlier in the season, which means that donors are ready to take action now and not just at the end of December. So if you're looking kind of to split or do like a dual campaign or maybe do a longer campaign and split it into Giving Tuesday is a great way to kind of focus on building momentum in one section and then focusing on building momentum towards the end of the latter part of the year. On top of that, there is an extra opportunity this year through Global Giving's Giving Tuesday match campaign. So I won't go into all the details because I'm going to share the link for you to explore, where Pilar will be doing that. But the basics are that there is match funding available for you and bonus prizes are involved. And there's a clear 36-hour giving window, which together creates urgency and the potential to boost the impact of any donations that you do generate. So if you are reaching UK or US donors, and that is part of your strategy, then definitely don't give this day a miss. Even a small, simple campaign can go much further on this particular day. So even if you could only have the capacity to put out a simple post, I definitely recommend doing so. And just to kind of break down what a match campaign is, so a match campaign is a fundraising initiative where donations are matched by a sponsor. So that could be a foundation, a company, or a major donor. And effectively, it adds up or doubles, or sometimes even tripling, but not in this case, the amount that is raised. So, for example, if someone donates £20 to you, the match fund will then add another £20, making the total £40 for your organization. And it's just a powerful way to motivate supporters as their contributions go further and have a greater impact, which is something Jane identified a little bit earlier on. And matching donations also offer nonprofits a variety of benefits, such as additional funding, obviously. So, because your donations will be matched by your partner, your nonprofit will receive additional funding without having to ask donors to give more. Also, increased engagement. So, due to the time-sensitive nature of match campaigns, and in this case, it's just 24 hours. Matching donation challenges creates a sense of urgency for your supporters, and this results in an increased amount of gifts and drives high levels of engagement. And then it also may help with your supporter retention. So, through the power of donation matching, your supporters' gifts will make a greater impact on your nonprofit. And this empowers the donors to play a more rewarding role for your organization. So, that's definitely something, an idea to kind of play on. Just trying to think about they've already feel rewarded for what they've kind of done, and how can you kind of capitalize, not capitalize, I would say, but leverage that, so that they can witness the impact of their gifts, and so they're more likely to kind of give again. So if you are interested in running a campaign for Giving Tuesday, or would like to learn more about the match funding opportunity, please do book in a coaching call to explore it further. You can also learn more via the link that Pilar has just shared in the chat. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Svetlana, who's going to be looking at the campaign planning framework.
Thank you, Simran. So now let's take a look at how to plan a campaign. So what are the key steps that you need to take? And we have identified some of them, so you can see them on the next slide. So we have the framework that we will talk through. So 6 simple steps of strategy, campaign theme, audience, task, timeline, engagement, and review. So let's start with the first one, which is building your strategy. So the first step is to decide what your campaign will be about. And perhaps there is an awareness day you're building a campaign around. So that could be Giving Tuesday, or end of the year campaign, or a specific theme that is important to you. So for example, as Legasu shared in the chat, it could be International Day of Persons with Disabilities, or for example, World Humanitarian Day, like on the example that Simran has shared before. So start with your goal and make it SMART. So just as a reminder, that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And as a next step, you should choose the type of your campaign. So it could be fundraising, as most of you are planning now, or awareness campaign, or maybe it could be a campaign around advocacy, recruitment, or newsletter signups. So this really sets the direction of your campaign. And your campaign time can be anything that you need. So whether you have a particular fundraising target, or maybe you are asking people to take a different action, such as joining your organizations as volunteers, or helping you mobilize a community to advocate for a specific cause. So think about what is something tangible that you want to achieve with your campaign. And then it is important to make sure that your goal is SMART. So make sure that you set up a SMART goal, like reaching 5,000 people online with World Environment Day campaign, or raise $500 during a Giving Tuesday campaign. So think about what outcome you want to see, and use this to decide on your strategy. Then, based on your goals, what your goals are, next you want to think about your campaign theme. So it is going to be integral in all of your messaging. So it is important to decide on the main story that you are trying to tell. And this is your emotive theme. So it is also helpful to plan the statistics that you can incorporate in your campaign to give evidence to your campaign story and provide wider context. And it is also important to plan your calls to action. So this is going to be really specific to the goals you have set for your campaign. So for a fundraising campaign that is very straightforward, your call to action would be to make a donation. And for fundraising, or for awareness raising, perhaps your goal was to reach a specific amount of people with your campaign. So great call to action would be to ask your supporters to share your campaign messaging with their family and friends, and help you spread the word, or perhaps maybe sign a petition. So with my example campaign on World Environment Day, for the emotive team could be showcasing the story of our service users who is being impacted by plastic pollution. So how it is impacting on their lives, what is the challenges and that they're facing, and how the organization is working to overcome those challenges. And they can then evidence this with some powerful statistics about plastic pollution and statistics about your organization's impact. So our call to action messaging would be asking people to share the campaign on social media and by email. And at this stage, in the campaign planning process, we would recommend you to make a note of what you want your campaign theme to encompass. So don't begin creating your content yet, as the next stage is very important to complete first, and that is your audience. So what is the key audience that you are going to help you to deliver the goals you have identified? So once you know who you're trying to reach, then you can choose the digital channels that are relevant to them, so that you're using channels that are most likely to engage them. And you can also plan content that is most likely appeal to them. So think about all those variables of your audience, like their age, location, occupation, and interests. So what don't they like to interact with? And also refer back to your personas to make sure that you can create relevant content for them, so you're not just targeting everyone. So pick 1-2 priority audiences, and that way you can be more focused and have greater impact. And then based on this, you will know which channels you want to use, so you can focus your energy on where those audiences are most active, not spreading yourself across too many channels. And now I will hand over to Simran to talk about the next stage of campaign planning process.
Thank you, Svetlana. So now it's time to think about all of the tasks and content that is involved in this campaign. So we want you to think about what type of content you want to create for your campaign and how often you have the capacity to share that content. So select a frequency that allows you to increase your visibility, build momentum, and keep your audience engaged without overwhelming yourself. So use tools to help you with time management, like a content calendar, and also Lightful platform to schedule content in advance. And we also want you to think about what your posts are going to look like. So whether they're going to be photos, videos, infographics, blog posts, emails, newsletters. There's a wide variety, and maybe you only dabble in a little bit or kind of try and branch out and try something new. Whatever you do choose, make sure they contain valuable information that tells a story. So from the examples that you guys mentioned before about what urged you to kind of moved you to act quickly, it was more that storytelling, that ability to kind of resonate with the person kind of or the person kind of experiencing the problem. So definitely try, I think storytelling is like the core pivotal part of all of this. And also asking yourself, are you going to choose one type of content or several? And this is going to depend on what your audience interacts with most, as well as your chosen channels. Because when it comes to which channel you want to share on your campaign on, it's best to choose those that work best for your organization and the audience that you're trying to reach. And if you're not sure what type of content performs best, you can test sharing different types of posts and measuring which gets the most engagement. Or you can look back at previous content and see which post performed the best and checking did they have anything in common. Once you've made those decisions, you can then map it out into your task timeline. And I'm going to go through our campaign planner tool on Lightful platform, which will help you kind of break this down in a little bit. But all you need to do is make a note of what needs doing, when, and all of this will help you stay on track and get everything ready for the campaign to launch. You can also be really specific about who is doing each task by assigning responsibilities. And then next, we need to think about how we can gain support and encourage engagement. So try to involve as many relevant people in your campaign as possible, such as your team, your supporters, champions, ambassadors, influencers, and past donors, and keep these people in the loop on campaign progress and the community impact, either through social media or maybe even through newsletters, if that is something that you do. So we want to kind of begin with your team and your volunteers in your organization because they are your biggest advocates. Encourage them to join in the campaign and make sure they have enough information to understand how they can support you and help spread the word. After you've kind of informed your closest network of your teams and your volunteer, then we want you to find your most engaged supporters and try and turn them into ambassadors. So you can create a toolkit with messaging for them to share to make it really easy for them. And I think often that our supporters and volunteers don't really realize the impact that they can have in terms of just spreading the word and helping to amplify the message. So that's something you do need to explain to them and provide them with the tools that they need to advocate for you. And we actually have more information about this on an e-learning course, and we'll also be exploring this in a live session on influencers and ambassadors a little bit later later on in your journey on Bridge. Once the campaign is live, ensure that you're replying to comments and messages and remaining active on social media. I think I read a post very recently that Pilar actually shared to me about before you do make a post on LinkedIn, try and be active at least 30 minutes before you do post. So comment on other people's posts that are engaging in that same kind of circle of content that you're going to be contributing to. And then after you've done that for 30 minutes, you make your post and then you continue kind of engaging for another 30 minutes and see how that activity window kind of compares to when you just post and log off. And you'll see that maybe the algorithm will boost you more because it can see your engagement. So that's definitely something that's worth trying. Once a campaign, yes, that's something that's great to do once a campaign is live. But most importantly, make sure that you're thanking your supporters every step of the way, as this can then strengthen the relationship for future campaigns and also help them feel appreciated and valued. And then finally, we have measurement. So after your campaign is over, analyze the success of your campaign based on your objectives. And the best way to track the success of your campaign is to align the objective with metrics. So you want to look at the data that moves your goals forward or holds them up. So use analytic tools to help you do this. And also encourage yourself and your teams to reflect and ask yourself what surprised you, or maybe what would you even repeat. So let's take a look at some of the metrics that you can track, because you'll see that some are not specific. I mean, most metrics aren't specific to a channel. They are instead aligned to your goal in mind. So to start measuring, something important is to set up your tracking on your website, like having Google Analytics, or for more advanced organizations, it may be even tagging specific events or goals. So if you look on your screen now, you can see that there are specific metrics that you should try and track according to the goal of your campaign. So if it's reach, you maybe focus on impressions, the followers, your website traffic. If it's conversions, it'll be newsletter sign up, product purchases, conversion rates, or donations, it'll be number of donors, donations per channel, donation size, and also total donations. And sometimes it's worth thinking about the gap between the spikes of donations that you kind of get. So this is all really helpful information when you're trying to kind of look back at the effectiveness of your campaign or even measure how well it's going right now. So hopefully this approach to planning a campaign makes it really clear and helps you to know exactly what you need to know and think about in order to launch a campaign. And you can always access this timeline via the recording or the slides that we'll be sharing in the email. So we did provide a very detailed framework, but the best thing about all of this is, it's all on our platform to kind of help you guide you through the whole process. And it's not something you have to always kind of remember. So if you kind of go onto Lightful platform, I think Pilar's going to provide a link to that now. And it's on the left-hand side. If you click on campaigns, then you have your campaign planner tool. And this basically covers the whole framework that we just discussed. So for instance, I'm going to go on start a new campaign here. And the best thing about this, oops, I'm going to just change my screen a little bit so you can see this better. So the best thing about this is that at the end, you can kind of download it as a PDF, which is always helpful and handy to kind of share it with your team. So first you could choose your campaign name, and then you could choose your campaign type. So whether the main goal is to fundraise, to advocate, to raise awareness, or volunteer recruitment. And then you also have this section here, which is a campaign idea that's been generated by your keystone story. So this is something that we're going to explore a little bit later on. But when you first log on to Lightful, the first thing you'll see under home is your keystone story. And this basically, all you have to do is insert your website link, and it generates a kind of way to communicate about your mission in the best way. And it comes up with an idea there. But I'm just going to scroll down because that's not so relevant. And then it's asking you to come up with your campaign description, kind of breaking down the milestones. So maybe you want to make sure that you get in touch. So what are the touch points that you're going to have with your audience? Maybe you're going to have a touch point 24 hours before the match campaign goes live. Maybe then another touch point 4 hours before it finishes. And then always that very important 1 hour left before your match campaign kind of donations will matter. So kind of thinking about the different touch points you'll have with your audience. And then we have a space for you to add your SMART goals and also adding your campaign theme. So this is a great way to kind of explore the way you want to communicate your campaign kind of content. So is it going to be emotive? What statistics are you going to use to kind of back up the emotions? Because we know emotions isn't the only way to kind of appeal to your audience. You have to make sure it's backed up by evidence. And then also, what are you going to convert that to? So what is your call to action? And then kind of thinking and picking apart the different audiences you want to capture and the platforms they live on. And then we also have a task timeline for you to kind of break down each task that you need to carry out. And the best part, which is assigning these responsibilities to different team members. And then at the end, as I mentioned, all about the analytics. This is where you kind of review your campaign and ask yourself questions about what went well, and is there anything that you'll do differently in next time. So that's a really helpful tool for you to look at when planning your campaigns. And now we're going to put you in breakout rooms. We're a little bit tight on time, so they won't be long. But in your breakout rooms, we want you to kind of discuss what campaign can you launch while you are on the Bridge program? What theme will you choose? What are your goals? And are you facing any challenges for your campaigns? So we're going to put you in these rooms for about Svetlana, do you think it's worth putting them in rooms, or should we discuss it here?
Yeah, probably. I think if you would like to share, I think we have some great ideas from shared in the chat, and some people mentioned that you were planning the campaign, so maybe we can stay in the main room.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, I mean, has this has this session kind of sparked any further ideas for anyone? What campaign can you launch while you're on the Bridge program? Or maybe do you think Giving Tuesday is something that you're interested in kind of leveraging? Do you have any questions around Giving Tuesday? Let us know. I guess this is your chance for getting a little mini one-to-one on your campaigns right now. So that's how I'm going to sell. That's my pitch for coming forward and sharing some ideas.
I think we have also discussed some campaigns during our real one-to-ones as well. So if anyone would like to share your ideas, I know some of you are planning the campaigns for Giving Tuesday. So if you'd like to share. Yeah, hi, Manisha, would you like to share?
Hi. Yes. Thank you. One campaign that I have been thinking on launching, but have been hesitant because there are a lot that I need to learn and I want to be appropriate for my audience, is a campaign on getting some recurring donors to, I don't know what to call it, like to just say, I need, for example, this is our monthly operation cost. 5 people I'm paying in Afghanistan, and these are some of the activities that we do on monthly basis, and this is how much it costs. For example, let's say it costs $2,500, and for $2,500, I need 100 recurring donors of $25. So that's a campaign that I really need to launch and want to launch during my time in Bridge and want to do it in that really effective manner.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing, Manisha. Yeah, I think you have also mentioned during our one-to-one, and I think, yeah, definitely it's a great idea for a campaign to kind of convert your first-time donors into your recurring donors. And I think the key message in here would be to show the importance of recurring donations and the long-term impact you're creating. So to invite them to be the part of the change and to, yeah, invite them to be the part of the solution, and also maybe I think it is, in this case, it's just also really important in how you approach donor stewardship. So how do you communicate with your donors after they have made a donation, and how you follow up and share like why their donation really is important, why is it so valuable, and what kind of impact it helps you bring, and yeah, how is their donation really multiplying the impact that you make. So I think I think in this way it is really important to shape your campaign around this multiplied impact your recurring donors help you bring. But yeah, of course, we will definitely be happy to just dive into this in more detail during our one-to-one, of course.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
very
Thank
agree
you.
with everything Svetlana said. I think building a campaign on donor behavior, like a specific form of donor behavior, is a great idea to have. And double everything that Svetlana said, but also one of kind of showing like how many people have, maybe kind of seeing if you already do have even 1 or 2 monthly donors already. I'm kind of getting them to share their stories about how that's helped them feel. Remember, we spoke about that kind of storytelling and like that resonating, kind of flipping that on its coin and trying to see how donors can resonate with existing donors as well. It doesn't always have to be resonating with your service users. I'm kind of putting out a storytelling based on that, yeah, and how donors should feel. So thank you for sharing, Maniza. I can see we've got a comment from Remy. So Remy says, we've been participating in the Global Giving campaigns, and yes, we are interested and going to participate in Giving Tuesday. Yay! But we have not been able to achieve our financial goals since we joined this year. How can we make sure that we reach our goal by at least 50%? So I'm going to hand that over to Svetlana because she is a Giving Tuesday pro.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, definitely. I think, well, we definitely can dive deeper into this during the one-to-one session because it's such a big and profound question. And we would definitely love to learn more about what worked and what didn't work in your previous campaigns. So feel free to book a one-to-one and we will share the link in a couple of minutes. But yeah, I think the first thing to start with is just analyze what has worked with your previous campaigns. So for example, your email outreach could have been a successful strategy. So maybe you can use it more proactively this year and reach out to your previous donors and mention all the impact that you have been able to achieve with their support previously and get back to this. Or maybe it could be a social media outreach, or maybe some new approaches as well, like for example, targeted ads. And also, I think if your goals feel a bit too stretched, maybe you can also, of course, reflect on this and make it a bit more achievable this time. And maybe probably think of some new things you can test and try, like as I mentioned, like targeted ads, or maybe ambassador outreach, or reaching out to some influencers as well. So there are many different strategies that you can review. And we are also sharing some in our campaign planning Lightful Academy courses. So we will also share them in a couple of minutes. Yeah, probably you can start with reviewing some of those and then book a one-to-one with us to dive deeper into this. Thank you very much for sharing. And just for the sake of time, I think we just have a couple of next steps we would like to mention. Firstly, we would like you to dive deeper into campaign planning. So probably there will be some tips that you can get from those courses that would make your campaigns even more successful than before. So we will share the link to our campaign planning playlist on Lightful Academy in the chat. And we suggest you take a couple of courses from this playlist ahead of your campaigns, and maybe you can make some tweaks ahead of your next campaigns. And we also invite you to use the campaign planner tool that Simran has shared before to start planning your campaigns. So you can focus on specific goals and identify your audiences and key context and a narrative around your campaign, and also plan some specific tasks and roles again in your team as well. So that might be really, really helpful. And of course, you can also book a one-to-one with us anytime to dive deeper into campaign planning and review your campaign plans or content. And you can find the link that Pilar has shared in the chat as well. And we also invite you to join our Bridge community. And this is the place where we share our campaign notices as well. And you can also see examples of successful campaigns from other organizations as well. So you can join our global community on Facebook. And we also invite you to join your cohort-specific WhatsApp group where you can get notifications and news straight through your mobile device. So you can scan the QR code in the chat. And we have just launched the final poll for today, just to ask you how confident you currently feel about planning a digital campaign. So I hope some of the tips and frameworks we have shared today will be helpful in planning your campaigns. But as I mentioned, if you need any other support from us, feel free to book a one-to-one at any time, and we'll be happy to support you in planning and executing your campaigns. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us anytime if you have any questions. We remain available in WhatsApp and also on our email, support@lightfold.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions and support you in your digital journeys. So thank you, everyone, for joining today, and have a nice rest of your days.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.